The cancer consultant sacked after 27 patients came to harm. Over 1,000 more people he treated will now be contacted.
Off to fight Ebola. Army medics from the south arrive in Sierra Leone to help battle the deadly disease.
The rise of the machines. The professor who says robots could one day take over.
And the calendar girls. The painted ladies learning to love their bodies, and all in a good cause. Good evening. A consultant who treated cancer patients has been sacked from his job after 27 people came to harm. 5 have since died.
More than 1,000 other bladder and prostate patients treated by Paul Miller at East Surrey Hospital will get letters through the post this week over the care they received.
But Mr Miller says he has always put his patient's safety first and he shouldn't have been dismissed. Malcolm Shaw has our report.
6 years ago, ITV Meridian filmed Paul Miller demonstrating a new blood test for cancer. But tonight the surgeon is facing serious allegations about how well he actually treated patients suffering from the disease. Mr Miller has been suspended from Spire Gatwick Park, the private hospital where we interviewed him. And he's been sacked from his NHS job as consultant urologist at the East Surrey Hospital in Redhill. Colleagues raised concerns that Mr Miller wasn't offering patients all the cancer treatments which could have helped them. An investigation has now been carried out into 1,200 patients going back 8 years.
We were concerned with some of the care that those patients had received, and we asked an external group of consultant urologists and cancer nurse specialists to look at that care for us and to judge whether patients had come to harm. And sadly, 27 patients who had that external review of their care are judged to have come to harm.
Many of those patients are elderly and most are men suffering from bladder or prostate cancer. They've all been re-examined and offered more treatment where that's possible. The hospital says the poor treatment the 27 patients received may have affected the life expectancy of some of them. 5 have already died, and further investigations will now be carried out to establish how far that was the result of this particular consultant's failings. But tonight, Paul Miller has hit back at the allegations, saying, "I'm extremely disappointed that the Trust has decided to dismiss me. I strongly do not believe that this is justified. I welcome the opportunity to cooperate with any investigation into my practice. My priority as a consultant for the last 21 years has always been to protect patients' best interests and safety." The General Medical Council has banned Paul Miller from treating patients with urological cancer pending an investigation. Meanwhile, the East Surrey Hospital has written to all the patients involved and set up a hotline so they can talk to a doctor or specialist nurse about their cancer treatment. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Redhill.
And if you're one of the people contacted as part of the investigation mentioned in Malcolm's report, then we would like to hear from you. You can email us at itvnewsmeridian@itv.com. Other ways of contacting us will be coming up soon.
Indeed, for more on that story and the rest of the day's news, do take a look at our website, itv.com/news/Meridian.
Detectives are treating a fire at a derelict hotel on the Isle of Wight as arson. They want more witnesses to the blaze to come forward. It broke out at the Royal Cliff Hotel in Sandown on Saturday night.
Hundreds of people gathered for a mass kiss-in at a Sainsbury's store in Brighton last night. The group were protesting after a gay couple were told to stop kissing or leave the supermarket at the weekend.
Refuse workers in Brighton and Hove have been striking again today in a row over pay. Collections won't be made today, tomorrow and on the 20th. People affected are being told by the council to leave their bins out and they'll be collected as soon as possible.
Well, they've been out of their homes for 8 long months, but today a family forced to leave because of flooding in Basingstoke finally moved back in.
Mike and Denise Walker left their Buckskin property in February and went into temporary accommodation. It's been a particularly difficult time for the couple as Mr Walker has a long-term illness.
But many more residents have decided they no longer want to live in the homes run by the local authority for fear the waters will rise again. Penny Sylvester has our report.
It's been a long 8 months for Mike and Denise Walker, but from today they can begin to get their lives back in order. It was in February when water poured into their home. Prolonged heavy rain and an overloaded drainage system forced them to evacuate their bungalow, one of more than 80 properties abandoned, as floods swamped the Buckskin area. When the water receded, families were devastated by the mess left behind.
I cried for about 3 months. I just couldn't believe it. Even now and again, I still think, oh, it can't happen again to us. It can't, but hopefully someone's going to come up with some answers.
And now anger is setting in. Today, much of it was directed to Hampshire County Councillor Stephen Reid as he visited the area.
I've got a disabled husband and I cannot physically go through this ever again in my life.
Since the floods, the drains have been cleared out and Thames Water have used CCTV cameras to check the sewage pipes are all intact. But residents are still anxious it could happen again.
So that's the first family moved in today, but not everybody's been keen to come back to their old accommodation.
Dawn Byrne is now settled into what was her temporary accommodation 4 miles down the road. She's not going back to her old home.
The community down there is absolutely lovely, you know, smashing people. But the fact that, you know, the uncertainty of waking up one morning and finding there's a foot of water in your home, it's just not worth it. It's not worth that constant worry.
The housing stock within the borough is limited, but we understand what residents have gone through, and it's important that they feel safe and secure, and so we'll do whatever we can to make sure that they have that feeling of comfort and that they can live where they choose to live.
26 families are choosing not to go back to their old homes, but the Walker family say they are thrilled to be back amongst their old friends again. Penny Sylvester, ITV News, Basingstoke.
Army medics from Hampshire have this evening arrived in West Africa to help in the fight against Ebola.
Indeed, the team from 22 Field Hospital, based at Normandy Barracks in Aldershot, flew to Sierra Leone last night. In all, 91 people, doctors, nurses and consultants, will run a field hospital near the capital, Freetown.
They'll be treating other medics who have caught the disease, not the general public.
Well, our reporter Emma Wilkinson was invited to meet them before their flight.
Supplies packed up, final phone calls home. 91 medics in Aldershot ready to head to Sierra Leone to help deal with a disease which has already killed more than 4,500 people. But morale was high amongst those of 22 Field Hospital.
I think initially people were quite apprehensive about the operation. I think that would be unnatural not to be, but the training that we've received has reassured us that actually if we follow our correct drills, that actually the risk can be reduced to as low as is reasonably practical. There's risk involved in any military deployment, and we're ready to go and do this task now, and I think you can hear that the morale amongst the troops is high, and we're keen to get out on to Sierra Leone and do the job.
A job which required 9 days of intensive training, wearing full protective suits, treating simulated casualties. In Sierra Leone, they'll run a field hospital and treat just some of the 427 healthcare workers already infected.
Corporal Colvin.
There are already 40 soldiers at the unit, which has 12 of its 92 beds set aside for medics.
I think the key thing that we in the Ebola treatment unit want to achieve is to reassure healthcare workers, and so that they continue to volunteer to go out and to man the 700 beds that DFID's funding, because we need support from the NGOs to come and to do that.
Right, Bennett. Mom!
It will undoubtedly be a difficult task. Well over half of those who catch Ebola die, but the team say support back home has been overwhelming.
We've had huge support from the local area. We had a well-represented families brief tonight, where not only the families of our troops but representatives from local schools came along to find out more about what we're going to do, and we feel hugely supported by the people of the local region.
22 Field Hospital will spend the next 6 months in West Africa. But with the government committed to helping until the outbreak is under control, there could be other deployments. Emma Wilkinson, ITV News, Aldershot.
Well, later here on ITV, the Tonight programme investigates the threat of Ebola in the UK. ITV's science editor, Alec Jar, has been working on the programme. He's in our London newsroom for us. Alec, our Aldershot medics, they're on their way to Sierra Leone now. Will they be enough?
They're going to be a great start, and they're part of a team of doctors and army personnel going over from the UK. The problem in West Africa has been there's just not enough doctors there, and so even just a few hundred NHS workers that are going out are incredibly important for those people there.
Alec, they'll have to wear protective suits, of course, in very hot weather and very difficult circumstances. You tried one on. How was it?
It's incredibly uncomfortable and it's very hard to breathe. There's 3 layers on your body, 5 layers on your hands, and the way you put it on is very specific. You have to have someone else help you put it on, someone else help you take it off. It takes 20 minutes each way to do that. And if you're a doctor working in Sierra Leone, you imagine how hot and uncomfortable it'll be given the temperatures there. Inside the suit it'll be awfully stressful. So, and they're going to have to do this 9 or 10 times a day because you're not allowed to stay in the suit for more than an hour at a time. So, you know, it's very difficult indeed for them. But that's why they're getting training, I hope.
We keep getting assurances from the government that Britain is well prepared to deal with Ebola. Briefly, what are your scientists saying?
The scientists I've spoken to for tonight's programme are cautiously confident. We have the right sort of facilities here, we know how to track the disease and we can treat people with it. So they're confident that there won't be an epidemic here of the scale that you're seeing in West Africa. And so therefore our attention, all our medical attention should be in that place, because if you want to stop the epidemic, that's where you need to send aid and help.
Alec Jar, good to talk to you. Thank you for your time. And you can see that Tonight programme, Ebola, Are We Prepared, at 7:30 this evening on ITV.
You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up, Simon will tell us what the end of the week will look like for you, weather-wise, plus...
Getting to the heart of the matter, the man who stopped breathing for 40 minutes says we should all know how to give life-saving CPR.
And for more on all of our stories, you can head to our website, itv.com/news/Meridian. Give us a call on 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook or Twitter.
13 minutes past 6. Thank you as always for choosing us. We appreciate it. The ITV News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Let's now get a quick preview to London and Mary Nightingale.
British military medics head to Africa to join the fight against Ebola. The nurses, doctors and consultants set off last night to run a treatment centre in Sierra Leone. The cancer doctor sacked over fears that more than 1,000 patients were mistreated at a hospital in Surrey. And honouring the fallen, the Queen and Prince Philip visit the remarkable tribute to those who died in the First World War. We'll do John Alistair Stewart and me for that and more at 6:30.
Thank you, Mary. A man whose heart stopped for 40 minutes but is today alive and well says it's thanks to his friend knowing how to perform CPR.
Indeed, Lee Gerard is just 32 and leads a healthy lifestyle. He wants to encourage all of us to learn basic CPR. As he says, a cardiac arrest could happen to anyone at any time. Sally Simmons now tells his story.
So come up onto your knees now, and you're going to use all your upper body strength to do this.
Lee Gerard and his girlfriend Kelly know just how important being able to perform CPR is. 5 weeks ago, he had a cardiac arrest. His friend Matt saved his life.
Lee started foaming at the mouth and his eyes started going funny and we thought he was joking.
We were all having a cup of tea in the garden, and then literally, without warning, it happened.
He turned grey, basically he didn't breathe, and he was like that for quite a long time, and Matt's obviously on the phone to the operator, who was brilliant, as well as Matt, was calm as anything, and he was doing CPR.
The prompt action by Lee's friend Matt saved Lee's life, and today in the entrance hall of Queen Alexandra Hospital in Portsmouth, the resus training team are keen to teach the technique.
It's quite tough in a way, but it's also aches. But yeah, it is quite tiring. It's really very hard.
Each year in the UK, 60,000 will suffer a cardiac arrest outside hospital, and only 12% survive.
For every minute that you don't do something, the person's chance of survival drops by 10%. So the message is, get moving, just get started.
Indeed. Hello, Sally.
5 weeks on, and with their baby due next month, Lee and Kelly can't thank the hospital and their friend Matt enough.
Without him being there today, we wouldn't be sitting here having the conversation. I'd definitely be a goner.
They took him to hospital, put him in a coma, induced coma for 2 days, and then obviously told me that because he hadn't breathed for so long, he probably wouldn't make it.
We're delighted for him and his family that he's gone on to make such a great recovery. There's nothing that we could do about his cardiac arrest apart from treat the aftermath, and most of his good outcome will be down to this swift treatment that he had from his friends.
Hundreds learnt CPR in just 5 minutes today, prepared should the worst ever happen. Sally Simmons, ITV News, Portsmouth.
Some great advice there. In other news, an investigation's underway after part of a car park roof collapsed in Hampshire. It happened at a retirement complex in Basingstoke. No one was hurt during the incident at Lady Susan Court in New Road. The building's only been open since July.
Southampton Airport is being sold to a consortium. It's currently owned by Heathrow, but bosses want to focus their attention on passengers at that airport instead. 40,000 flights pass through Southampton Airport every year, and 1,200 people work there.
Meanwhile, last month was the busiest September at Gatwick Airport since records began. More than 3.8 million passengers used the airport, an increase of 7.7% on last year.
It's the stuff of science fiction, but could it become science fact?
Who knows? Well, machines and robots could soon develop their own intelligence, a bit like mine, and turn on their human masters.
Well, that's the prediction from an Oxford professor who says we need to come up with a plan to fight the robot revolution before it's too late, Sangeeta.
Kerry Johnston has been looking at the impending clash between man and machine.
The robots are on the march, and they're ready for battle.
Stand back! I'm gonna blow!
But our obsession with machines could eventually be our downfall, according to one Oxford professor who's predicting the rise of a new artificial super-intelligence.
We don't know how long it will take, but eventually machines will surpass us. I think we'll figure out how to replicate the same general intelligence, the same general learning algorithms that makes it possible for humans to learn any of a wide variety of different jobs.
And that's where the danger lies, as the machines could decide to do away with their human creators. A theme explored in the Hollywood blockbuster I, Robot, starring Will Smith.
My robots don't kill people.
That thing threw somebody out of a window. Is that registering with you?
A robot cannot harm a human being.
You trust them if you want to.
Losing the planet to an army of machines is a theory that hundreds of Oxford intellectuals turned out to hear in a chilling lecture given by Professor Bostrom. So, how scared should we be?
I'd say I was quite scared, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a good chance that by the end of the century we'll have machines that are smarter than humans, and at that point, who knows what's going to happen.
It is very enlightening. I mean, for the first time I actually thought deeply about where we are headed towards.
He doesn't look very frightened, so perhaps we shouldn't be scared yet.
But there's still hope for us, mere humans. Professor Bostrom says we still have time to thwart the impending disaster.
I think what we've got to do is to figure out how to engineer a motivation system for a seed artificial intelligence such that when it grows into superintelligence, it will retain values that are friendly to human and beneficial.
So, for our own safety, we need to create crowd-pleasing robots rather than menacing monsters. Kerry Johnston, ITV News.
What a frightening thought.
I'm terrified.
Now, Fred, this is nicer. Yeah. Were you forced to learn a poem at school?
Yes.
Or perhaps you have a favourite that's always stuck in your mind?
Oh, to be in England, now that April's there.
Beautiful. It's October.
Researchers are trying to find out whether learning poems off by heart is good for us. So if you've got a ballad on the brain, they want to add it to their survey, as Claire McGlasson will tell us.
On the shelves of this library, 55,000 books, volumes of verse, reams of rhyme. But how many really stand the test of time?
I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high or veils.
Brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the
to a
way.
summer's day. Thou art more lovely.
An academic wants to know which poems we remember off by heart. And what is it that makes them memorable?
He's a master criminal who can defy the law.
So one of our central research questions is, in this age where you can summon up 1,000 poems on your smartphone or your tablet, then actually what's the point of having a poem in your head and in your heart? Anecdotally, it seems that there's something very important about it, and that's what we want to really tease out through our research.
Until the 1940s, children were forced to memorise and recite poems. After the government announced that it was bringing back learning by rote, academics decided to find out just how beneficial it really is. So they're asking the great British public to rack their brains.
There was definitely one about a railway, a train, but I couldn't remember, it was so long ago.
I think just being sort of forced to, I wandered lonely as a cloud, etc., 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 doesn't really, I probably puts people off poetry.
There was one there was one I did in the guides when I was very, very young, and I can't remember the name of it.
But with so much else to learn, should poetry really be a priority?
It's kind of like learning your times tables, isn't it? They go into an automatic part of your brain and get stored there for when you need them.
It makes memory work, but it also is a skill of speaking aloud, isn't it? Saying by rote without understanding isn't so beneficial, but if they also understand, and then they can experience feelings, emotions, different points of view, perspectives.
Probably just understanding how they might have felt or how they chose to write it, rather than having it drilled into you and just trying to get it right.
It's quite impressive though when someone can quote.
Yeah.
It does make them look rather clever, doesn't it? Yeah. And so researchers are urging us all to remember to think of a poem. And there's something rather poetic about that. Claire McGlasson, ITV News.
You can't argue with that. Now, lots of us have got parts of our body that we don't particularly like and want to hide at all costs. I mean, I'm not mad about my feet. What about you?
I'm sitting up so you don't see my tummy.
You've got no tummy at all.
Yeah.
No, you haven't. But a group of, no, you haven't, honestly. But a group of women, move on quickly, have decided to bare their worst bits in a charity calendar to try and raise thousands of pounds.
And with the help of some face paint, they've managed to transform their thighs, tummies and even their bunions into works of art. Sarah Cooper's been to meet them.
It took an hour to turn this unloved tummy into a stomach worth showing off. And this is the end result. Miss November, in memory of a friend.
I didn't like my body, didn't like bits of it, was figuring out how I was going to change those bits. And then I got a call to say that another lady that I know had died of cancer. And that's the fourth lady in their late 40s and early 50s. And I just thought, do you know what? She'd like my body. Right now, if she could swap, she'd have my wrinkles, she'd have my flabby tummy, she'd have all that. And so would her family.
And so the Love Your Body charity calendar was born. 12 ladies bearing their worst bits to make something beautiful. Toes are turned into chicks, bunions transformed into onions, there's legs like tree trunks, and you can guess what's behind this full moon.
My bottom, well, it's just big and round and it's a nice full moon. What a transformation.
A rather unusual commission for an artist who's more used to painting children's faces.
I knew I was going to be painting breasts, but obviously I'd never painted them before, or bottoms, or stomachs, or somebody's toes. So it was getting my head around that to start with, but once I started, I didn't, it just went with it.
And as the only man in the room, Ben the photographer had no choice but to go with it too.
As a photographer, trying to get your subject to be very relaxed and sort of confident is difficult enough anyway. But when you get a stranger in front of a camera to do something like this. They're all very sort of, ooh, you know, and giggly and nervous. But no, I think it worked out really well.
My mum went, right, okay, take your pants off, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I stood there and she sprayed me with it was shaving foam, and then started chucking hundreds and thousands at me to make the ice cream look good. So, but it was a bit scary getting everything out in front of everyone who was there on the day, but it was okay in the end.
These calendar girls are hoping to raise £30,000 for Cancer Research UK and raise the spirits of women across the country.
We love our bodies!
Sarah Cooper, ITV News.
Too right, well done to them.
Yes.
Well, Mr. October, Simon Parkin joins us now. So, Simon, should we cover up this weekend?
Funnily enough, no.
Really?
You don't need to. Well, you might need to be a bit covered, but, well, you'll find out in the forecast.
I mean, on this subject, Sangeeta's worried about her tummy,
Oh, yeah.
my feet. Yeah. What's your problem?
The whole of me. The whole of me. Anyway, from some real human things that look like other things to some that have come in, harvest-related, look.
Yeah.
Things growing, like Lisa Bennett has got, is that a parrot or a carrot?
Good question.
I think a felt tip pen's been involved at some point there. We all know potatoes have eyes. This one's got a whole face, look. As ended by Edward, Sarah and Bertie Smith, who watches every night in County Cork in Ireland.
Well done.
And here's one that looks like a dog.
It does.
Paul Devereux dug this up in his garden in Southbourne in Dorset, and Nicola Warren's friend Billy grew this tomato, or is it a duck?
A bath duck.
Meanwhile, Gary Smith in Sandown on the Isle of Wight sent in a runner bean that looked like a swan, I'm thinking. And Sarah Chambers in Shoreham by Sea has a bit of ginger that she says looks like a camel or a cat. I'm going with llama, personally. But finally, not grown, but still food-related, from Vern Wilkie in Fareham, bacon that looks like penguins. Can you beat it? Meridian weather at ITV.com. And if you want to have a closer look, they're all on my blog on the website, itv.com/news/Meridian.
And a heat wave this weekend.
Now, you know we're not allowed to use the H word, Fred, but certainly it won't be cold.
It won't be cold, but we can't use the H word. We can use the S word for Simon Parkin.
That's us driving on, us driving off in France, and us on the bridge.
Driving to Europe. Eurotunnel Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
In case you're wondering what 1 o'clock this morning looked like because you were asleep, Martin Curtis wasn't and took this picture of the very clear skies. Tonight, more cloud around and some showers too, courtesy of 2 areas of low pressure out to the west that are going to basically force various bands of showers our way over the next few days. And notice the isobars tightening together. That means it's going to get breezy too. But the wind coming from the south, so it's much warmer, and that means temperatures should be fairly decent by day. Certainly tonight, not cold at all. 13, 14 the overnight low, but some showers already on the go this evening, more of them as we head through tonight, and some of them could be quite heavy, but they will peter out as we head towards tomorrow morning. So should be a relatively dry start with some good bright or sunny spells to get us going. The next lot of showers start to develop towards the coast, but further north through the day, some decent dry and fine weather. Temperatures again up to around 18 degrees, which is 3 or 4 ahead of where we should be for this time of year. But up from the southwest by about 5 o'clock, we'll see some outbreaks of rain spread in, and they'll work their way across the region overnight. Now, high tide times, well, you can see in Bognor, 6:30 in the morning, and then just after 7 tomorrow evening.
Eurotunnel Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Now, it was some time ago, in fact 13 years ago, when I made my first appearance on television.
You look lovely.
Oh,
and
thanks.
it was a wee while before that I started working on TV with hair.
You haven't changed a bit. So today it was with great excitement that we opened the doors to ITV Meridian to youngsters interested in a career in the media. The open day, called Open Newsrooms, is part of a project run by the Creative Diversity Network, and it allowed the youngsters from Hampshire to see behind the scenes and pick up some tips.
Yes, these boys from St George's in Southampton read the weather with Simon's help and even had a go at reading the news. And it has to be said, they were worryingly good. They're not coming back.
No, so you want me here tomorrow, do you, Fred?
Yes.
Still? All right, I'll be here. In just a moment here on ITV, we have the national and international news with Mary Nightingale and Alistair Stewart.
But now, though, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks so much for watching. Take good care of yourselves.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.